It was the Married with Children knockoff with a used car salesman who talked to a stuffed bunny named Mr. Floppy that critics hated, but was more important than people realize. Unhappily Ever After brought in millions of viewers a week, breaking the unwritten rules of television in the process. And in doing so, bought a brand new network the time it needed to greenlight and develop hit shows that defined the 90s and early 2000s. And then, as a thank you for its service, it was erased from existence. This is The Rise, the backstage drama, which includes a cast love triangle that's hard to believe, and the disappearance of Unhappily Ever After. Now, before we get into it, give this video a like if you remember Mr. Floppy, and subscribe for more retro TV deep dives. Let's go back to 1993 and a gentleman named Ron Levitt. For 7 seasons, he co-ran Married with Children alongside Michael G. Moy, which was a massive hit for Fox that kept the network afloat, opening the door to The Simpsons. When he walked away from the Bundys after season 7, Warner Brothers was building a brand new broadcast network called the WB, and they needed sitcoms fast. They went straight to Levitt with a pitch: give us your version of Married with Children and help us launch our network, just as you did for Fox. Levitt said yes, brought in Arthur Silver, another Married with Children writer-producer, then 2 more alums as executive producers, Sandy Sprung and Marcy Vosberg, and a writing staff that was stacked with Married with Children vets. If the WB wanted a Married with Children knockoff, they had the right people. All told, the 2 shows shared 75 cast and crew members. The pitch centered around a divorced couple who hated each other, an alcoholic, possibly schizophrenic dad who had a stuffed rabbit who talked to him and him alone, and a genius daughter who looked like a model. WB executives reportedly nicknamed the project Divorced with Children internally, which is exactly what they wanted. It was originally written as a starring vehicle for Stephanie Hodge. Hodge was a comedic actress who'd been working on TV for years, and the plan was to build the entire series around her character, Jenny Malloy, a self-absorbed narcissist who couldn't stand her family. For Jack, the husband, they cast Jeff Pearson. He'd done years of TV work and had previously guest starred on Married with Children. Surprise, surprise. For Mr. Floppy, the talking rabbit, they got Bobcat Goldthwait, the stand-up and Police Academy actor with maybe the most unhinged voice in 80s comedy. Goldthwait had also guest starred on Married with Children, where he played the biological father of 7, the kid the Bundys briefly adopted in season 7 before he got written out without explanation. For the kids, they cast 3 relative unknowns: Kevin Connolly as Ryan, the dim-witted oldest, Nikki Cox as Tiffany, the beautiful overachiever, and Justin Burfield as Ross, the youngest and most forgotten kid. Joyce Van Patten, the veteran character actress and sister of 8 is Enough star Dick Van Patten, was cast as Jenny's pill-popping alcoholic mother, Maureen. The show premiered on January 11th, 1995 as part of the WB's historic Night 1. The lineup that night included the Wayans brothers at 8, Unhappily Ever After at 9, and a short-lived soap opera parody called Muscle filling out the 9:30 slot. The Parenthood joined the block the following week. In the pilot, Jenny kicks Jack out after 16 years of marriage. He moves into a slum apartment overlooking an alley where gunshots go off constantly, with bloodstains on the wall and a filthy cot for furniture. The stuffed rabbit he brought, a gift from his youngest son, starts talking to him. Reviews, understandably, were mixed. Variety called it blatant and crude, but praised Hodge's brazen performance. The pilot pulled 2.7 million viewers, and for a network in its first month of existence on a Wednesday night with 0 brand recognition, that was decent. The original opening credits had Bobcat Goldthwait singing a song about Cupid and a bunny. The network hated it so much they replaced it with Ray Charles's Hit the Road Jack, with the cast lip-syncing in the credits. It became one of the most memorable opening sequences on the WB. Season 1 ran 13 episodes in total, drawing between 2.3 to 3.1 million viewers a week. Those may not be Friends or Seinfeld numbers, but that was gold for the WB, particularly with young male viewers, which was the demographic the network was desperate to lock down. So they renewed the show. And then the show hit its stride. Season 2 launched on September 6, 1995, with an episode titled Jack Moves Back. In this episode, Jack moves back into the house, but the writers made one critical change. Instead of moving back into the bedroom, he was permanently relocated to the basement. The writers realized that keeping Jack and Mr. Floppy isolated in a separate apartment was killing the family dynamic. The basement turned into a literal madman's cave right underneath the family, with Jack and Mr. Floppy scheming below while the rest of the Malloys lived their lives above. And it worked. Ratings climbed. Most season 2 episodes hit 3 to 4 million viewers, with peaks above 5 million. The December 20th, 1995 episode Hot Wheels pulled 5.1 million viewers. That episode guest starred Gary Coleman as a demon/guardian angel figure. Season 2 also gave Mr. Floppy his most beloved running gag, an obsessive romantic fixation on Drew Barrymore that the show kept escalating across the season. But the real reason the show was thriving? Nikki Cox. The show was built around the mom, but by season 2, it was clear the breakout star was daughter Tiffany. So in season 3, the writers leaned in. Storylines shifted to her high school escapades, her schemes, her boyfriends, and her rivalry with new character Sable O'Brien, played by future Terminator 3 star Kristanna Loken. The season 3 episode Lightning Boy, which aired October 6, 1996, pulled 5.7 million viewers. Those were massive numbers for the WB. They had to keep leaning into what was working, and that created a problem. The writers had run out of things to do with the mom, Jenny, and Hodge ultimately decided to leave. So the producers cooked up one of the most insane character exits in sitcom history. In the season 4 episode The Ghost and Mr. Malloy, Jenny announces she's heading to a spa to use the tanning bed. She falls asleep under the lamps and essentially gets cooked to death. The next week, in Exorcising Jenny, Jenny returns as a ghost, a poltergeist haunting the family. They call in Father Guido Sarducci, the legendary SNL character played by Don Novello, to handle it. It doesn't work. And what the writers did next was totally unheard of. They had a real Warner Brothers executive named Jordan Levin walk onto the set playing himself. He tells the characters that the dead mom's storyline isn't working and he's bringing Jenny back to life. Now, we've had moments like this on Fresh Prince where Aunt Viv is replaced and Jazz calls out that she looks different and Will Smith looks at the camera, breaking the fourth wall. That kind of stuff had happened before, but nothing like this. Jenny returns, she's overjoyed to be alive again, right up until she sees what the family has done to the house. She throws a tantrum. So you'd think they'd be going back to normal, mom at the house, dad in the basement, but nope, not with this show. Hodge had already decided to leave. Her character eloped with a lesbian lover to Europe and was never seen again. It might be the craziest cast member exit in sitcom history, and audiences hung around through it all. Viewership stayed in the 2.6 to 4.7 million range through season 4. The show would go into its 5th season, which was remarkable for a WB show. Most of the early ones died out pretty fast, but there was some major drama brewing behind the scenes. Off-screen, during seasons 4 and 5, Kevin Connolly and Nikki Cox were dating. TV siblings dating, not uncommon, just look at the Brady Bunch. Anyway, in a 2023 appearance on the podcast Hey Dude, the 90s Called, Connolly finally talked about how it ended. He said he was standing in line at the grocery store when he looked at the magazine rack and saw a copy of the National Enquirer. On the cover was a paparazzi photo of his girlfriend, Nikki Cox, with his co-star. That co-star? Mr. Floppy. That's right. She left him for Bobcat Goldthwait, who was 16 years her senior. The next day, Connolly had to go to work and sit at the table read with the woman who dumped him and the man she dumped him for. Now, the good news for Connolly is that the show was nearing its end. In the 5th season, the show now revolved around Tiffany, Ryan, and a new character named Barbara, played by Wendy Benson, going to college. Ratings remained steady, with most episodes drawing between 2.8 and 4.5 million viewers. It seemed as if the show could keep going, but season 5 would be the end. The reason? It hit 100 episodes. That was the magic number the WB needed for syndication. The economics of producing more didn't make sense. It was time to move on. The series finale aired May 23, 1999. The episode was titled Le Mort de Floppy. Tiffany gets accepted to Harvard, but without financial aid. Jack steps up to pay for it. He becomes an enormously successful used car salesman, then graduates to selling cars to celebrities. As his confidence grows, his schizophrenia seems to fade, and Mr. Floppy dies because Jack no longer needs him. Then Jack makes a choice. He realizes that being successful, rich, and sane is boring. He deliberately chooses to be a drunk schizophrenic loser just so he can have his friend back. He pours a drink, hallucinates his best friend back to life, and they sing together as the show fades to black. The show went straight into syndication after the finale, with reruns airing late at night across the early 2000s, and it did fine for a couple of years, but then it faded away. You see, the show was built on hyper-specific 90s trash TV references. The humor got dated fast, and the tone of the show was hard to schedule around anything family-friendly. By the late 2000s, Unhappily Ever After was effectively off the air in the United States, and it never got a DVD release. And even now, you can't find it streaming anywhere. For a 100-episode show from a major studio, that's almost unheard of. But here's what happened. The Ray Charles version of Hit the Road Jack was the heart of the entire show. It was in the opening credits of nearly every episode for 5 seasons. And in the 90s, networks only cleared music rights for broadcast. To release the show on any modern platform, the rights holder would have to go back to the Ray Charles estate and renegotiate. Not cheap. For a hit like Friends, the studio pays. For a forgotten WB sitcom, the math just doesn't work. And even if the math did work, the show was produced by Touchstone Television, which is owned by Disney, a show that TV Guide ranked number 30 on their list of the 50 worst TV shows of all time. Doesn't exactly align with Disney's content catalog. So the show basically sits in a vault, locked away. Now, even though the show disappeared, the cast kept entertaining audiences. Kevin Connolly landed the role of E on HBO's Entourage in 2004, which made him a household name. He later directed the 2018 John Travolta movie Gotti, which currently holds a 0% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, just 3% behind Cool as Ice. Nikki Cox got her own WB sitcom called Nikki in 2000, which ran for 2 seasons. Then she joined the cast of NBC's Las Vegas, which ran from 2003 to 2008. Her engagement to Bobcat Goldthwait ended around 2005. She married comedian Jay Moore in 2006, had a son with him, and then they divorced in 2018. Justin Burfield landed the role of Reese on Fox's Malcolm in the Middle just months after Unhappily Ever After ended. Malcolm premiered in 2000 and ran until 2006. In 2010, he basically retired from acting to co-found Virgin Produced, the entertainment production arm of Richard Branson's Virgin Group. Jeff Pearson quietly became one of the most reliable character actors on television. Dexter, 24, Person of Interest, Designated Survivor, Scrubs, the list goes on. Bobcat Goldthwait directed World's Greatest Dad in 2009, starring Robin Williams, which is now considered one of the more underrated dark comedies of that era. Then God Bless America in 2011, then the documentary Call Me Lucky in 2015 about comedian Barry Crimmins, which won awards at multiple film festivals. As for Stephanie Hodge, she never got another starring role, but continued to act in guest roles. And then there's Ron Levitt, the show's creator. He created a short-lived WB sitcom called The Help in 2004, but that was pretty much it. Sadly, he died on February 10th, 2008 of lung cancer at 60 years old. At the time, he was engaged to model and actress Jessica Hahn, who appeared as Miss Taylor in 4 episodes of Unhappily Ever After.
And we were always like the stepchild on that network, like, because it got good numbers, but it was just like their one comedy that I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how that show like lasted for so long, because it wasn't like renowned, like it wasn't like anyone knew about the show. It just had steady numbers, and we always outperformed any new like comedy that came onto the network. So it just kept us around.
And that's perhaps the best way to look at the show's legacy. It was a big fish in a small pond. Never a hit, but always better than whatever else rivaled it on the WB. And for that reason, it was essential to the network in its infancy. We've all heard of the WB shows that followed: Dawson's Creek, Smallville, Buffy, Charmed, Gilmore Girls, Reba, One Tree Hill, Roswell, the list goes on. You may not be able to find Unhappily Ever After anywhere, but that show helped make all those other shows possible. Not a bad legacy for a show about a used car salesman who talked to a stuffed bunny. If you enjoyed this deep dive, give the video a like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.